Hey everybody, and welcome to the Chit Chat. I'm Adam.
I'm Amanda.
And today, we're going to be reviewing a game called Heaven and Ale. This is a 60 to 90 minute game designed by Keisling and Andreas Schmidt, and it's made for 2 to 4 players. So, I think this is a pretty unique game. It is themed around you being a nice little monk that wants to brew the holiest and best of beers.
Under God's green earth.
Exactly. His blue sky, all of that nonsense. You know, it's gonna be beautiful when monks are drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I can get behind that theme for sure.
I can get behind that. I'm rocking a Coop shirt right now. So of course I am on board. Anyway, this is a game with unique movement. Each turn you're going to take and you're going to pick up your worker. You're going to move it as far as you'd like along a given track, and then you're going to take that action. It's also a tile placement game.
Mm-hmm. So as far as movement goes, think Tokaido. For those of you who have played that game, you can go as far as you want, but you may be passing up some of those other actions that you could be taking in order to have first choice of further along actions.
It's very true. But like I said, since it's a tile placement game, if I skip over tiles to get a different tile or to get a better tile, now those other tiles are available to you. But if I really need that tile, it's not an action space that's always available. It's a tile that I'm physically taking off the board. And that makes it the really tight, the interesting, the unique mechanism there. So in addition, there's also a sunny side or a light side of the board and a shadowed side or a dark side of the board. And that is basically going to constitute things that are going to improve your brewery and how well you make beer. Or it's just going to make you some money because, you know what, even monks need to, pay the bills.
Yeah, you got to keep the lights on, keep the doors open. Money's important too. And in the game, you use money to buy the tiles that you're going to be placing in your field.
Got to supply your brewery. Got to buy all that stuff. So let's go ahead and let's dive into the components. I think we've described the game a little bit. So go ahead and tell me what you think about those and give us a go.
Yeah, the components are a little bit of a mixed bag for me. Some of the components are really high quality. There are some cards that you use either for bonuses or for money. And those are very thick, like almost as thick as a credit card.
They are. They feel very different than the typical card you hold.
Substantial. And then other parts are a little bit more flimsy. The player boards are more of like a card stack paper board than a cardboard. Right.
They may be the same thickness as the cards. It's just when you make it such a large player board, you notice that in the age of inset player boards where your pieces fit in there, it doesn't work.
But other than that, the components are nice. The board is nice. The artwork, I think, is pretty generic for most of it. And then some of the art, like the art on the monks, is so bad as to be distracting.
Yeah, so a few of them just look like very creepy individuals. And then one of them, if you're familiar with Dick Dastardly, some old cartoons, he looks like he has this nice twist-up mustache.
Yeah, that like villainous, twisty mustache. I think it's supposed to be his cheeks.
It is his cheeks. It is. But I'm going with mustache.
The monk's artwork is so bad that there was a good portion of the games I've played where we were discussing the art instead of the game. Yeah,
we played this several times in playtesting before this review, and it was mentioned by almost every other playgroup that we had during the experience, and that's never what you want about the art. Oh, the monks look creepy. That's not what you want to hear.
No. Yeah, I mean, for most games, generic artwork, as long as the game itself can stand above it, I don't mind, but when the art is so bad that it can detract from an otherwise good game.
Absolutely. The only thing I want to add to components are, I thought money was a little weird. So some of the money is the really nice cards and some of the money is chits. It's not a thing that bothered me. It was just odd to have a little bit of both in the game. And then there was some superfluous art on the side of on the player boards. So basically in an area where there's no points, no scoring or anything, there's all these random icons. And I don't know how many questions I answered about, well, what does this mean? It's just random art. Well, it's in the score track. It's just random art. Ignore it. It doesn't mean anything. Those are really, really minor complaints, but there's something I wanted to mention.
The first time I played, I did think it was going to be a lot more complicated because there were a lot of symbology there on the side. But again, most of it you were just supposed to ignore. So I can understand that complaint.
Art for art's sake, and not exceptional art for art's sake, which is the concerning part. All the player boards did have the design on the back, which I always think is nice. Never required, but nice. Thematics, I didn't really feel in this game. I never really felt that I was a pious monk making beer. I felt that I was moving cubes along a track, and I felt that I was placing things on a board, and that's fine. It's not a complaint of mine. It's just, if you're looking for a deeply thematic game of heaven and ale, this is not it.
You could have been producing anything, really. You could have been, I don't know, running a restaurant or doing really anything.
I agree.
Making wine, making...
See, wine is also something I'm on board with.
Apparently I have alcohol.
But before we get distracted too much by the alcohol here, let's go ahead and move on to mechanics. Let's talk about those. And I'd like to go ahead and kick us off here, and then you can tell me where I'm wrong. So mechanically, there are a few things. You can do all of the stuff that we talked about earlier. You're acquiring those different resources. You're also acquiring monks, which have unique triggers. They can both combine your ability to make money, to improve your brewery, and to improve the brew or the quality of the beer itself. And so the monks become this very unique thing. There's also this really unique scoring mechanism in which you're basically balancing taking scoring tiles. The scoring tiles do things like move up your brew track or give you money, but there are only so many of them. Once you've taken a score for, say, barley, you're never going to score barley again throughout the game. Once you take a score for Dick Dastardly Monk, you can never score that monk again in the game. And so you run the balance between, do I take this score now? Because there's only so many of them, and if I don't take them in the first round, well, I'm just giving up the ability to do it. Or do I put a bunch more of those tiles out so I get value out of that action? And that is the biggest balance in the game. There's also a paddock structure. So you're going to be surrounding these paddocks with your tiles. And depending on the value of your tiles, meaning the value of the resource tiles that go from 1 to 5, you're going to produce better things. Your paddock is either going to move your brewmaster, which you need for scoring, or it's going to trigger the tiles around it. And that depends on, again, the values you have there. So you have a really nice balance on what you want to do. Scoring is done by barrels. All you have to do is go to a scoring area, and then you can take any barrel, which are like an achievement that you've qualified for. This also is a balancing act. Do I go to this place that gives me nothing other than score? Well, yeah, I need to score, but at the same time, then Amanda's going to take all of the good tiles. And do I really defer that action, or do I wait until I can go there and maybe score 3 or 4 barrels at one time, knowing that maybe Amanda can score 2 or 3 of them? I don't know. And that becomes a really difficult balancing act as well. So basically, I think what I'm saying in this entire mechanical thing is it's tight. It's very tight. And I think I'm going to leave it there and move it to Amanda. I know she has some unique things to say about this as well. Yeah,
well, absolutely. I mean, I absolutely agree. The scoring is much tighter than you think it would be. You only have so many actions. There's only so many ways to get points. And so you have to balance, do I need to get this tile before, or am I worried about somebody else taking it? Should I skip all these other actions? It's difficult.
I mean, you really have to think about the whole, how do you get points at all? So a lot of times we talk about games, so you can refer to them as a point salad. This is the opposite of that. There are 2 ways to get points, and one of them would be very easy to get no points at all. We have played games in which experienced gamers have received 0 points at the end of the game. And so you can have scores that are 0, and you can have scores that are 50. And let me tell you, if I play a game where the score's 400 and 450, I don't feel bad. But if I play a game and I get 0 and you get 50, that is a painful loss.
And especially when a game lasts 60 to 90 minutes, if you spend 90 minutes playing a game and you get 0 points, it sort of feels like you just wasted all of that time. Like, I don't mind losing, but to say, like, I went through all this effort, I made all these improvements, I did all of this juggling and balancing, and then I ended up with nothing, it's kind of demoralizing.
Right. So to explain a little bit about how this is done, all the resource markers that you have, they have to move past a specific area to score. And then you have a brewmaster that moves up to different areas, and that's kind of a conversion and a multiplication factor. And so you basically normalize all your resources, and wherever they normalize out is the amount of points you get times where your brewmaster is. Well, if you normalize them out in a 0 range, it doesn't matter if it's times 6, you still get 0 points. And we have had players get 0 again as experienced players. I received 4 points one of the games that I played, and I play hundreds and hundreds of games a year. So it's not something I typically struggle with to score points.
The other thing to mention as far as gameplay is that it plays 2 to 4, and the way that they balance out the number of players is they change the number of rounds.
Yeah.
So a 4-player game has 6 rounds, a 2-player game has 3 rounds, I believe.
You're correct, yeah.
And then the 3-player game has 4 rounds. And so there's a large difference in how much engine you can build in 3 rounds versus 6 rounds. So if you're used to having 6 rounds, you're planning ahead, you're trying to build this engine, and then the game's over after 3 rounds. It feels short.
And then that's exactly what caught me. The stark difference, especially between the 4 and the 3-player game, in what kind of an engine you can build is drastic. In some of the 4-player games I played, I was able to fill in my entire board. In the 3-player games I played, I realized very quickly that you were going to fill in far, far less of your board. You were going to score far, far less. And if you weren't executing that strategy early, you were in trouble.
Yeah, you really do have to completely change your strategy. And it's just interesting how they tried to accommodate the different player count that way.
I would say it's one of the most stark differences between one player count and another player count in a game that I played recently. It was something I really, really noted.
It feels like a much different game depending on how many players you play with.
I agree completely. So let's go ahead and move to final thoughts. I'll let you go first on final thoughts, and you kind of tell us where you feel.
I'm a little on the board on this one. I think it's a good game. I enjoy playing it. My problem with it is the first game, just learning how the scoring works. Again, the first game I played, I think I got 16 points. It's easy to understand. It's just difficult to really see how it's gonna all combine for your final score. And so it was the second game when I felt like I really understood it. But then once you get beyond that second and third game, the replayability is not really there for me. Every game feels very samey, again, other than the number of rounds. You're seeing the same tiles, you're seeing the same monks, all the cards are the same, it's just the same game over and over. So I kind of am at that I would play it maybe 3 or 4 times and then get a little tired of it. I'm not sure it's something I really need to add to my library. Yeah.
I think I'm in the same place as you are. So in all these reviews, I think I like at the very end to give what I would give it on Board Game Geek. I know that's something a lot of people look at and think about. And so I would give this game about a 6.5. That means it's good, but it's not great. And I think a lot of what that comes down to is that replayability factor. We play these games so many times for reviews, and playing it that many times in a short space, I did find that I was starting to find strategies I felt were better than others. I'm not going to say solving the game, but I never really felt like there was a lot of different things I could do. There was kind of one pathway. Who did it better? Great. And I think that will really impact its long-term replayability. Now, I did enjoy it, but good but not great. That's where I'm at. I did not add this one to my collection.
But super fun. I mean, if you see it on a shelf somewhere at a board game cafe and you want to give it a try, we definitely recommend playing. But again, just not something I feel like I need to own. Once I played it a few times, I think I kind of...
Absolutely. I think it definitely fits the board game cafe thing. I think it's something most people should try because it's unique. But again, play not own mostly.
The scoring is unique. The movement around the board is unique. It has lots of good aspects.
Yeah. And Keisling has been really prolific lately.
So maybe if they came out with an expansion at some time that added some variability, I would revisit it.
There you go. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed our video today. If you like the video and the content that we put out, please feel free to comment, ask us questions about this game or any other of the contents that we do. Also, feel free to subscribe and you'll have a video in your feed every week. Thanks.